All right. So I want everyone to arrive. Welcome to this workshop, How to 10X as a PM Without Burning Out. I want everyone to just sit in their chairs or stand at their standing desk, and however you're oriented, I really want your feet flat on the ground. So do that, including if you're watching the recording. Hi, you're here with us too. I really want your feet on the ground. I want you kind of like orienting your spine so that we're just here. And you are part of the earth, you're part of the sky. I'm like the most type A hippie you'll ever meet. And I hope I can share that with you guys today. No matter where you're coming from today, whether you're feeling really excited about 10Xing and that's kind of your, where you're at, or you're actually really struggling or suffering from the burnout aspect, everyone here is part of this community right now. And I really want you to feel connected to this group of people who are all here together and actually connected to the first round of this event that I did last week, where 500 people registered. That's how universal and common this situation is. That's how needed this hour is. So I really want you guys arriving here and know that whatever you're feeling, it's totally welcome. If you're feeling completely stressed out, if you're feeling super psyched and motivated, that's welcome too. But all starting points here are welcome. So let's see. All right, I'm gonna get into my whole PowerPoint thing here in a second and do this intro. But what am I most curious about with you guys today? Well, how about this? Okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, how good are you feeling across the board? All this intangible stuff that's actually super important, like confidence, how rested you are, sense of motivation. How good are you feeling? 10 is like amazing, never better. And 1 is like you're basically like still in bed. You haven't even made the day happen yet. Got some 6s, some 5s. Stan's feeling pretty good. Got some 4s and 5s. All right, so we're all like real in the middle here, right? We've all probably been better. And to some extent, I would expect that burnout has a significant amount to do with the lower scores, right? What's keeping us from being that 8, 9, 10 is the exhaustion from the pandemic, is pressure that we're feeling at work because we're having to teach our kids at home, but work pressure hasn't changed either, right? We've been dealing with this for a long time. Our nervous systems are really overloaded. So today, this is going to be a pretty structured technique that's really, really clear and really, really actionable. But I also want to really just tune into and be present to how exhausted we are. Self-care and scheduling time for self-care is going to be actually part of this technique. It's the thing that is always the first thing to go when we're being really focused and structured about our goals. And so we'll be talking about that too. All right, so let's see. I'm going to share my screen with y'all. And I want you guys to be really active in the chat here. If you have a question, don't hesitate to type it there. My amazing admin, Justine, will be keeping track of them and we'll come back to them at the end. If occasionally I'll kind of like sidebar and answer a question if it's directly related to what we're talking about, but I will make an effort to answer all questions at the end. So let's get this shared here. Okay, so everyone should be spotlighted on my PowerPoint. You should be able to see that. Welcome to How to Become a 10X PM Without Burning Out. As I'm sure you already knew, burnout is the #1 obstacle, the greatest threat to your success and your ability to advance your career, get promoted, all by, being hyper strategic, getting 10 times the amount done with the same amount of effort. Our agenda for today, I'm going to just absolutely sprint through the intro and promises that I'm going to make to you today for this session, talk about why we're adopting a new productivity system, and introduce the 4 horsemen of burnout. This is something that we address in a really structured way in my group program, Fearless Femmes. We're going to drill into a subset of it today, but it's important to get the full picture. We're going to talk about how to throw away your to-do list and what to do instead. We're not just burning everything down today. You will have a scaffolding to hold on to as an alternative. And we're going to get a little bit into the science behind why we take on too much in the first place. And then we'll make as much time as possible for open coaching. All these tools and techniques are awesome. I always get questions about your unique circumstance and exactly how you're going to implement them. So I really want to make time for that. So, okay, introductions and promises. Hello, I'm Becca, and my whole job, literally my full-time job, is to help women in tech and products get promoted to leadership roles. And from there, we use that influence, that focus on impact, justice, and being supportive to all to change the world and change work culture while we're at it. Creating the kind of supportive environments that's going to be a big shift away from the burnout culture that we currently experience as our status quo. So Fearless Femmes is the community that I run that does this. I think we've got a couple femmes in the audience. Hi guys. And we would love to talk to you about that anytime if you're interested. Promises for today. No rhetorical questions. Anytime I ask a question, I actually want you to answer in the chat. So please do that. The more you participate, the more you'll get out of this. I do have an authentic style. So this is just who I am. I'm a real human being and I swear a little bit. So if you've got kids in the room, I don't know, put headphones on. And there's also might be a little bit of tough love today, right? We're going to do some sugar, right? Like really meeting you where you are, but also some spice, taking some personal responsibility for what's going on. I will give you all of the help I can in an hour. This is not some sort of teaser thing where like, if you sign up or pay money or whatever, you then get the value. You will leave this session with the actual tool that I actually teach in my group program, no strings attached. However, if you do stay to the end, you will learn how to get more help if you want it, strictly optional. You're gonna get value out of this one way or another, and you should hopefully have a little fun while we're at it. You're gonna leave here today with a 6-step technique to reclaim your productivity and do more 10x strategic work, period. And also a special offer that I won't spoil that I'm gonna give you at the end if you stick around. All right, are we ready? Are we feeling good? We're gonna fire up the chat. The 4 horsemen of burnout. Let's do a little bit of a heat check here in the room. Let's see, I need to get my chat pulled up here so I can see your answers. So we're gonna use the stoplight system here. This is the stoplight system of rating for each of these 4 horsemen. These are the harbingers of the doom, the burnout, the physiological exhaustion that comes when we have been spinning our wheels for too long and enduring chronic stress without any relief for too long. You are doing it alone. You're self-sabotaging, maybe procrastinating or letting things creep up on you or avoiding difficult conversations. You are in an environment that's super high interrupt. You're constantly getting interrupted. Like a 2-hour block of focus is a joke for you. Right? Or unclear goals. You know, maybe you've even got your shit together more or less, but you're not exactly sure what direction you're supposed to be going, right? All these things create broken feedback loops for you to feel effective and see progress, and also creates an environment where you're kind of just pushing too hard and disconnecting from your body's signals that you need to take a break and rest. So let's go through these one at a time. If you want to, if I would love for you guys to enter into the chat, red, yellow, or green. Red is, this is a huge problem for you. Yellow, somewhere in the middle. And green's like, nah, I've got this, not a problem at all. How many of you feel like you're kind of isolated doing this on your own right now? You're left to figure out everything on your own. You don't have a community to support you. That's red. If you're like, nah, I've got my ride or die squad. Anytime I have a question, I just ping them and I've got it. That's green. Yellow is somewhere in between. Got some yellow, strong yellow crew in here. Got a couple of reds, one green I saw. Awesome. So good. Okay, cool. So I'd say that's like, I say that's a strong yellow. Would you say, Justine? That seems like it to me.
Yes.
All right, cool. Okay, so doing it alone, we've got yellow. That's, again, you've got some community, but not a ton. That's great to know what I'm working with here. Self-sabotage. This is a tough one because, again, we're kind of turning the lens on ourselves. How many of you guys are procrastinating, of doing some avoidant behavior, maybe numbing out when you should be turning towards your emotions? Red is that. Green is like, nah, I set my goals and I do it. Execute every day. Got quite a few reds here, a few yellows, kind of all over the map here. I'll average this out to a yellow because I got a couple reds, maybe a couple greens, maybe a little on the orange side, we'll say. Okay, that's good to know. We'll be getting into, part of our deep dive today is going to dive a little bit into this and really address a certain aspect of self-sabotage. So I hope we can get that from wherever you're at today, at least one level up as a result of this technique I'll teach. Okay, so this is going to be the big one. It's the big one for everybody. How many of you are just dying of being interrupted all the time? Like you're absolutely losing your mind, constantly being pulled in different directions. Like your ability to focus is just obliterated. That's red. Green is like, nah, I just set 2 hours to work on my calendar and I can sit down and hammer it out, no problem. Bunch of reds. Well, this is obviously a red one. That's why you're here. Let's be honest. One of the reasons why you burn out is because you are pulled in so many directions at the same time. Your energy is being expended constantly, but you don't have enough deep focus time to actually make significant progress on whatever it is that you're doing. And that context switching and that interrupt lifestyle is really hard on our nervous system. We like to focus. We're more productive when we get going, right? So this is a really big problem for everyone and is the thing that's keeping you from 10xing. If you're like piecemeal with your effort and energy all over the place, you're not going to absolutely crush it at one thing. It's just not structurally designed. It's just a design problem, right? Adrian says he can focus just not on prioritized things. That makes a ton of sense. I'm really curious to hear more about that, Adrian, but we'll get to it at the end. All right, how many of you feel like you have super clear goals? You're like, yep, that's my priority, got this, that's green, right? Really clear priorities. Someone comes to you with another priority and you're like, oh, no. Well, that's clearly less important than this, right? Or how many of you feel like you barely have a sense of the direction you're rowing in, and God forbid your team is all rowing in the same direction. So yellow, green. All right, so this is gonna be, again, in Fearless Femmes, we tackle each of these 4 things comprehensively, holistically, root cause, right? So part of the assumption today is gonna be that you have done the work to clarify your goals. This is a whole other workshop that I promise I'll spin up and teach at some point about how to clarify those goals and really hold those boundaries. But you guys will find this technique helpful anyway, even if you're feeling a little bit unmoored right now. So, okay, why be here? Why bother changing anything about what you're doing right now? I'm going to spotlight my whiteboard. If you guys have gallery mode open, just do speaker view and it should switch to my whiteboard. Which my amazing high-tech phone stand is giving an overhead view of. Can you guys see that? Is that big for you guys? Justine, are you seeing it? Oh, I think I have to stop my share. There we go. How about now? Good? All right. Oh, Justine, can you see it? You're on mute.
Yes.
Cool. All right. If everyone can see that, if this is not big for you, this amazing, beautiful whiteboard, then I want you to just get into speaker view. You might be in gallery view. All right. Welcome to your next mountain, everybody. In Fearless Femmes, we mostly focus on this mountain. So I'll talk about what each of these things are. We kind of focus on the strategist mountain to executive mountain. But I also want to kind of pay some attention to the novice mountain too, because this is an interesting thing because it kind of tells us where we're coming from, right? We learned a lot of our tools and techniques climbing this mountain. So you can kind of think of novice, strategist, and executive as phases of your career. This is not so much job title, so much as it is, just level of seniority, level of experience, and, the level of complexity and ambiguity of the problems you're going to be facing every day. Novice, this mountain, the peak of this mountain, looks like you having an established pattern library for problems. So I'll explain what I mean by that. You've gotten enough experience of enough diversity and tackling things that fall into your lap and saying yes to a bunch of stuff so that you can start to recognize patterns. You're like, oh, this is the framework that I need to use for this. I've done this before. I kind of recognize this, right? And so graduating from novice to strategist is when it's pretty easy for you to just be like, oh yeah, I recognize this situation. Got it. I got a pattern library for this. I know what framework to use. And the tools that we use to climb this mountain are things like to-do lists, right? Cool, you have a list, you get it done, check mark, the end. It's a really, really effective strategy for climbing this mountain because you can just keep track of everything that's your responsibility. Another tool is saying yes. Hopefully not to literally everything, but to most stuff, right? Like again, diversity of experience is totally where we're going. Now, this is the reason why we want to change strategies here is because yes and to-do lists are not the tools that are going to allow you to climb this next mountain, which is the mountain that we really focus on in Fearless Femmes, that we really focus on when we're getting promoted to senior, to director, to VP, which is what we do in Fearless Femmes. Strategist, you'll know you'll have peaked the mountain of strategist when saying no is easy because your priorities are so clear. You've done the planning, that there's just no competition. You've done the analysis. You know what the most important thing is you need to do. You know what your team needs to get done. So you do it. Saying no is super easy. Executive, well, and what we're really going to be talking about this phase of the mountain, this ridge that we're climbing today. That's really what this tool that I'm going to teach is going to help you with. The executive mountain is also something that we focus on in Fearless Femmes. There, where our goal is to 10x others. Whereas strategist, what we're really working on is 10x you. 10xing yourself. Every single thing you do has a 10x return. Everyone clear on like the whole investment return thing? Just say yes in the chat. Like, yeah, I'm a strategist because the thing I do is so strategic that it just gets me 10x results. It's awesome, right? It feels really good. You like move something and then you know, an inch gets you a mile. I don't know if that's the right metaphor. So we need new tools here. If we try to say yes to everything or use things like a to-do list, our to-do list is just 10 times as long. Like it's just the wrong tool, right? But it's the thing that's worked for us for a long time. What we're gonna do today is say, thank you, to-do list. You've been great, but it's not me, it's you, right? I've moved on. So we're gonna tell you what to do instead today. Just to get a heat check again, how many of you are novice? Say me, you're still working on this pattern library. This is still gonna be helpful for you. So novice, if you're a novice, just say novice in the chat. Maybe you're somewhere between novice and strategist. You can say novice/strategist. Novice strategist, awesome. So I got a couple people that are just at this mountain, right? You're kind of like here. That's awesome. You're in the right place. Anyone kind of like at the strategist going to executive level? We've got a couple of, about 30% of Fearless Femmes are at that level. We've already helped them climb this mountain and they're on to the next one. Some full-fledged strategists here. Amazing. All right. And if you're close to being a strategist or you feel like you're right in this zone, this is going to leapfrog you here. And I got a question about what 10x means. To be a 10x PM, it's very simple math, right? Here's an example. I could either work an hour and get if I'm tired, for example, I have two choices: keep working or rest and then work later. The 10x choice is to work and then rest later, because in that hour that I work, I'm going to get 10 times as much done than I would if I were tired. Now, it's going to take a little longer, right? Because we've got that rest period in there, but it's an obvious win because this is an investment in your future, right? The 10x return comes from making 10x investments, like resting when you're tired. Who here, raise your hand if you do, or say me, if you do better work when you're exhausted and pissed off. You do better work when you're exhausted and pissed off. I really want to meet you because you're a marvel to science and we should put you in a lab and study you, right? Our creativity, our curiosity comes from when our nervous system is super balanced. We're feeling relaxed, we're feeling safe, and rest is a key part of that. That's why this technique involves rest, right? And yet here we are saying yes to everything, trying to climb this mountain. So I'm curious to hear from you guys. Is saying no easy for you? And if not, why is it hard? Real question. So it's easy for Diane. People look sad. Yeah. Right here, I'll write in red because these are the obstacles. on this climb to strategist. Can I? You need permission. I have to do it. I have to, no one else will. Let's see, not sure. You might be wrong. Oh, good heavens, what would happen then, right? Depends on who's asking. Can I say no with credibility? Will it make me look bad? Let's see, what else? Don't have relevant reasons to say no. I mean, if you are rested, excited about the project and it advances your career and you have time, yeah, I'd say you're out of relevant reasons. But I'd say that like if this is an opportunity to advance your career, if you're tired and need to rest, or if it's not an opportunity to advance your career and there's something else you should be doing instead that's higher leverage, those are very, very good reasons. Where's that belief? That's reason enough, right? That's what we're talking about here.
Oh, the good day.
Oops, and let's see, I'm gonna put everyone on mute. Or Justine, would you mind putting everyone on mute here?
Yes.
Great. Okay, so perfect time. Okay, there we go. So don't worry, Barbara, we've got it. We'll have a recording coming. Oh, I might look lazy. That's a big one. I just want everyone to please mute. I got it. Never mind. I just muted it all. Got it. Okay, cool. Lazy, unwilling, team player. Are you guys seeing a trend here? All of these things amount to emotional baggage and fear. There's not actually anything fundamentally standing in your way except fear of looking lazy, self-criticism, self-sabotage, looking bad, like other people's judgment of you. These are the obstacles that we have to tackle, right? This is the real meat of this technique and the reason why community support is so deeply important in traversing this mountain, right? So again, this technique is gonna be helpful, but I want you guys to be hyper aware of all of the baggage that you're carrying as you hike up this mountain. Every piece of this is like a brick in your backpack. And here you are trying to 10x, right? Fear is the least strategic thing in the world. And it also antagonizes burnout. So let's see, I'm gonna repin me. There we go. Everyone with me? Everyone like feeling their mountain? Everyone kind of present to like, it might be a little bit painful to look at this stuff. I'm here with you, I get it. That's why, that's why I do what I do. This is not just tactics. This is not just logistics to getting to where you're going. Part of this journey to being 10x means looking at all the baggage that most of us have been carrying our whole lives. This includes baggage from our family of origin. This includes baggage from our past experiences. God knows I've got that. This includes baggage that our culture gives us as it conditions us to feel shame for acting in our own self-interest. We'll get into all of this a little bit, but now you know why this is a big picture thing, not just a quick fix, right? That's why becoming a strategist is actually hard and is it going to be a unique journey for everybody. So let's see, why change the way you're doing things? Everyone feel like they got an answer to that? Because if we say yes to everything, we're going to burn out. If we have a to-do list that's 10 times as long, we're not going to be able to 10x. That's it. It's not strategic, right? We're playing a different game. We need a comprehensively new strategy now. Congratulations, you've arrived. If you remember one thing from this entire presentation, I want it to be this. Everything you do is an investment, literally everything. Every relationship you build, every hour of sleep you get, every favor that you do somebody, every dollar you spend on your own personal growth is an investment that should, at this phase of your career, get you 10x return. No more one-to-one, no more piecemeal, no more tiny, no more playing small, right? This is, again, here we are taking bigger risks. The reason why we don't do that and take big swings is fear. Being 10x requires investments that get you 10x return. And what got you here is not going to get you to the next level. So I'm going to teach you a tool that will. basic principle underlying what I'm about to teach you is this. The more you plan, the less busy you'll be. And again, this is indicative of 10x, right? If every single thing you do gets you a 10x return, if every minute you spend gets you 10 minutes back, you shouldn't be busy. That's the cool thing about this strategy, is that it should feel easy. It shouldn't feel like 10 times as much work. So I'm going to keep hammering this. That's what we mean when we say 10x. As Brene Brown puts it, I love this quote, busyness is the world's most socially acceptable opiate. I'm curious, say me if you kind of wear your busyness like a badge of honor. Like your friends ask you how you're doing, and you're like, oh my God, I'm so busy. Say me. I know that I did that for a long time. And again, our culture tends to reward us for how much we suffered instead of the impact we have. That's what we see glamorized. We see this hustle culture. We see Elon Musk starting 3 companies. Like, again, like there's real trade-offs. There's real costs to doing this. Urani used to, John used to. I'm really glad that you guys have made some changes here. As a person who is also on the other side of this mountain, holy shit, I cannot believe that I was that miserable for that long. I really wish I had done this work sooner. I'd be, God knows where I'd be. All right, oops, let's see, where did I go here? This is the tough love. I want you guys to sit with this. I know, I'm sorry, I'm here for you. I like feel my hug when you read this. You're not busy. You just have sloppy time management skills. When we look at our calendar and we're like, how did this happen? You've given away your agency. You're looking at a bunch of meetings of like undeterminate value, and yet you do nothing. Yet you don't cancel them. Yet you don't ask, hey, did we still need this? Right? Because why? Fear. Fear of what's going to happen, fear of looking bad, fear of not looking like you're working hard, as though that is more important than actually delivering results, right? This is the brokenness of our work culture. The truth is this: you get to accomplish your goals on whatever time frame you choose. You're in control. I could have had $1 million business this year, but I wouldn't have been able to take vacations, and fuck that, right? That's not what I'm doing this for. So yeah, next year, cool. I choose that, right? The amount of energy that we spend being burned out, tired, context switching is absolutely insane. It costs us so much. It's common sense for you guys, right? Consciously, I know you know this. If you take that hour to rest, you're going to get more done in that next hour. We add this busyness to our personas as though it's something to brag about. And this is what we really have to confront within ourselves. So here's the technique, and then we're gonna get into like how it, like all your questions about it and the implementation concerns that you have, because again, there's gonna be a lot of fear that comes up when I give it to you. But I want to kind of frame this in terms of prerequisites. When I teach this in Fearless Femmes, this is directly from the program, the Career Accelerator. We do a couple things first. First is training up our emotional fitness, right? We tend to, at this stage in the program, we're no longer getting totally bowled over or dominated by our fear, by our emotions, our anxiety, right? Though everyone in Fearless Femmes starts there. We all want to be the best and have a great career, and it really means something. We're scared of it, right? So we train up that emotional fitness first. We address your special flavor of self-sabotage. We really address that head on and understand the root cause of where it's coming from. We set a powerful vision statement that's inherently motivating to you, right? The things that you genuinely want, not that society wants or your parents want. And then we establish clear, inherently motivational goals, like get a promotion, right? That represents a step towards that vision. So again, clear goals is gonna be really like incredibly important for this to be, to maximize this technique I'm about to teach, but just try it. I want you to try setting it with the goals that you have. Right? That's going to be the important thing, because you know what? As you get more senior, as things get more complex and ambiguous, priorities do change. This technique allows you to adjust and evolve along with shifting priorities. So if it happens, you're not SOL. Okay. Here's the technique. Everyone got their notes down? Ready to go? Sit down at the beginning of the month and identify the most important thing that you need to accomplish in the next 30 days. One. You can have something that's like second place, you know, but focus is absolutely critical here. If you need to have a conversation with your boss to like clarify that, yes, indeed, this is the most important thing that you need to be working on, great, do it. It's part of the logistics, right? Get buy-in for this, have some visibility around it. You're not alone in this. You sit down and decide that this is the most important task that you could possibly be working towards for both your company and personal goals. Next, sit down. This is where we kind of like get some inspo from our to-do list days, right? Sit down and write down every single thing that must happen logistically for that goal to be accomplished at the end of 30 days. That's it. If you need a step for like doing some discovery, Googling something, learning a skill, great. Add a step for that, right? And maybe you revisit it if you need to. But all of your goals are just logistics, guys. This is one of the key things that we teach in Fearless Femmes that allows us to just problem solve our way to achieving anything we want, is this idea that all of your goals are just logistics. If they're physically possible, if you're not trying to grow wings or something, you can do it. It is eminently possible. Any schmuck off the street could do it if you gave them these instructions. You don't even have to be special. Isn't that good news? All right. Number 3, ask yourself, what else? What else? What else? Make this utterly comprehensive. The task here is to demystify what it's going to take to achieve this goal. Any ambiguity we have around something that lends itself perfectly to clarity is going to invite self-doubt. It's going to invite self-criticism, like, oh my God, can I do this? Am I good enough to do this? No, again, any schmuck off the street can do it. If your instructions are comprehensive enough, then you can do this. Everyone following so far? Say yes in the chat. Yeah, all right. Golden. Pretty, okay, like we're pretty straightforward so far. Number 4, what conditions must be true for these logistics to happen? This is where I kind of give a nod to reality or the complexity. Look, if one of your goals is going to require you to have a room full of people together, comfortably and safely, we're gonna have to wait for COVID to end. Right? Like, sure, that's just reality. That's part of the logistical process. You might not have control over it, but basically we still are going to, involve that in our logistical plan. I just got a question about elaborating on the what else part. This is more than anything to keep you from being too vague, Deeps. This is the idea here is that if you've asked what else, like what else belongs on this list, that's actually what I mean. You're writing this list of instructions for like how one would need, things one would need to do to get from point A to point B, from not having your goal to having your goal. And as do that first draft. And then usually I find is that when people do that first draft, they're actually missing a bunch of stuff. So they haven't really thought about it that hard. I want you to sit down and write for like 10 minutes if you have to for this goal. Every little thing that you need to do, break it down into small chunks, but not too small. Again, this is going to be kind of your process to some degree. But ask yourself, what else, until literally a stranger could follow the instructions and get the goal. So you've asked what else enough times when that's true. Awesome. Next. If you skip this, you will not accomplish your goal, okay? Ask yourself, what self-care do I need to commit to keep your shit together along the way? Look, guys, if you sit and try to like pull an all-nighter for a week to get something done, the work is gonna be bad and you're gonna be so exhausted at the end that you're gonna like you're gonna miss other opportunities afterwards, right? I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. I am just here to remind you this is your responsibility. Part of your logistics in getting this goal done is sleep. You do not see a training plan for an Olympic athlete that just has workouts on it. That would be insane, right? So have your rest there, have your self-care there, have time with your family, a bath, a walk, petting your dog, whatever it takes. I want it to be part of this list. So again, stick it in, like make it on maybe on a little sort of make this list in a medium where you can slot things in. I want you thinking holistically, because ultimately the thing that's going to actually execute these logistics is your body. Our body is the thing that gets us from point A to point B. If we don't take care of it, it's not going to happen. As Adrienne says, sleep is absolutely priority number 1. Justine, I think we have a couple more people waiting if you want to admit them. All right. Just to like kind of re-emphasize this, every goal is just a sequence of logistics. Write them down. That's it. That's this part of the process, right? Part 1. Once you have that list, Like then write a step at the end for have the thing accomplished and party, right? It's going to be a really great moment. I want you to look at this list and choose it. This is not something you have to do. And if there's stuff on the list that you really don't want to do, awesome, delegate it. Now that you've got clarity on it, you can plan for that, right? So this is part one of the technique, right? This is kind of actually somewhat akin to having a to-do list, only what you're a big girl, a big boy now, like you're a big person now. You know what you need to actually perform, right? You're not a novice anymore. Or that's not where we're going, right? We're graduating to this next phase where you know what you need to be at a baseline performance that is awesome. So Lucy is a fearless femme who was kind enough to share with me her actual Q1 and Q2 activities here. This again is kind of the altitude that she was really comfortable with in doing this exercise. Lucy was kind of at the strategist going to executive phase in her career. So you see that her goals quarterly are quite big, quite lofty in terms and holistic in terms of organizational leadership. But she still broke it down into steps, right? She even, and I love when my clients make my process even better, she even wrote and described what success really looks like when this goal is accomplished. So they know when they've done it. And then, you can do this in however you want. I think that what she did was she kind of backwards planned, like from this goal, what has to be true? Okay, and then what has to be true for that? What has to be true for that? And ended up with these 7 high-level steps that ended up being what she's now well on her way to accomplishing for Q1. Hire and onboard a new PM is her Q2 goal, right? So again, look at these tasks. Write a job description. Post the job description. Hell, you can even add a step 0 of open your laptop, whatever, right? There are literal actual logistics, things you must do for this goal to be accomplished. It's not a mystery. It has nothing to do with how good of a person you are, right? It's just whether or not you wake up and actually execute. Here's part 2. Ready? Each of these tasks, for example, like any of the tasks that Lucy has in these activities, put them on the calendar. Logistics take time. Your calendar reflects your priorities because your life and your career is simply a summation of how you spend your time. Let that sink in a second. If all your goals are just logistics and logistics require you to invest time in accomplishing them, then they should be reflected on your calendar, as should time with your family, self-care, exercise, all of this. Any questions about this? Again, it is literally as simple as I'm making it out to be. All of you are brilliantly smart. We love to make things a little more complicated. This is so basic that it might be blowing your mind right now. Adrian's recommending Sunsama, a tool to schedule tasks. Yeah, make this yours, right? At the end of the day, like your calendar is going to look different than mine. Everyone's got, I don't know, like color code, whatever, right? Make it yours. But whatever it is, make sure these things are on your calendar. A little rule of thumb here, because sometimes people are like, well, I don't know how long it's going to take. Cool. Don't waste cycles on this. If it's a small task, estimate an hour. If it's a big task, estimate a week or a day or whatever. Then wake up every morning and get that shit done. Add some buffer. Like under promise and over deliver for yourself. That's usually a good strategy. And then here's the actual challenge here. Everything that we just talked about is really easy. Here's the point where your self-sabotage is going to come in and really make things difficult. If it's not on your calendar, it doesn't exist. It does not get done. Remember, you sat down and did the analysis to decide what the most important thing you could possibly be spending your time on is. You put a ton of thought and effort into that. Why would you do anything else? This is your career, your happiness, you're delivering value for your company, impact on your customers. What's distracting you from this? Right? The cool thing about having this clarity is that nothing else is going to compare. So here's what I recommend for actually putting this into practice. Of course, as things kind of change over the course of a month, you might get a little more clarity on something. A priority might shift, right? As you get more information. I like to sit down and on Sunday night, or actually I do this Mondays, I sit down and just do a pass on the week to see if I need to update anything. If I'm like, oh shit, that took way longer last time than I thought it would, then I like move, expand that time box a little bit for myself. and just refine that week's tasks, right? You don't have to, be totally surprised every time you look at your calendar at the beginning of the week and like having forgotten what you put there. Be caring with this. But again, this should be a 30-minute a week exercise because you've really done the bulk of the planning at the beginning of the month. This is my actual calendar from actually last month. Check it out. Probably you color coding fiends, like I know you're gonna love this. I know that if I have a bunch of meetings on Monday, my whole week can spiral out of control. I will kind of just leap on the first thing that's on my plate because I'm getting, I'm kind of getting my mojo going for the week. And if I don't sit down and have this focus time to like really understand what's most important for me and understand like do a little bit of the refining of the tasks if I need to, I'm just going to feel really like off kilter for the rest of the week. I guard this time with my life. I meet with Justine at 9 a.m. That's the only meeting that I have. It's 15 minutes. So we just sync on priorities to unblock her. And then sometimes I'll have a little task in here. Again, this is part of the tasks leading up to this workshop. If you were in last week's workshop, you got these emails that I wrote in this time slot because I had it planned, right? Similarly, you'll notice that I planned out completing the nurture sequence of emails. That's the sequence of emails you guys are going to get as a drip. That's super valuable content. Hopefully you won't unsubscribe, but feel free to if you want. But there's a sequence of stuff. I have to write that email content. I have to be like, what's going to be most valuable to these people? What's an email that's going to be worth reading for them? What's a new skill, a new tool, something that's going to be hyper valuable? So I was like, okay, I need some time to think about that. I'm going to do the first 2 on Monday, the next 2 on Wednesday, skip a day because I get bored, right? I know myself. And then have a period of deep focus to really bring it all together, really tie up any loose ends. And then boom, I'm done. Then I hand it off, get it all scheduled at the end. That's it. It's logistics, right? Any questions about this? Deep says my calendar is not always in my control. This can be done once in a while, but when you're working for a corporation, it's different. This is the most common argument I hear. It's complicated, but you can do it. You can do it. You absolutely can. It is 80% of the time, it is fear keeping you from setting boundaries. If you were to say, I'll go into the actual tool in just a second, but you should be holding your time. Your corporation wants you to be working on the highest priority stuff, right? Does your corporation want you doing many things poorly or a few things well? Real question. Some companies actually do want you to do many things poorly. They don't care. It's a good thing to know about the company you're working for, actually. And Gwen knows one thing well. Awesome. Your interests are aligned, guys. Like, this is a no-brainer for good companies. Ivana asked, how am I managing unforeseen items? Awesome question. For me, I do I have it here? I don't have it here because I think this kind of had evolved out at this point, but especially for product leaders, have an ad hoc block. So like have an hour a day that you guard for those inevitable emergencies that come up, right? Because they do. You don't want to, you don't need to be a dick about it. Like, yeah, you want some time to be accommodating, to be able to be responsive to things that are genuinely urgent. And so this tool that everyone in FEMS uses is this ad hoc block at a time where, I don't know, maybe they're not really in deep flow state anyway, like they don't really work. They're not really good at focusing in the afternoon. Great time to just knock out some fires or be really responsive and catch up. Corporate workers are doing the work of 3. In the end, you're doing too much and not well. That ends up being the case for 2 reasons. One is burnout culture at work. I'm not saying, I would never say that this is your fault, but you have an area of responsibility here. The pressure is real. You're not imagining it. Your boss may well say, no, get it all done well. But ultimately, like, this is your choice. This is your career that you're designing, right? Is this going to be the place where you thrive, or is it going to be the place where it burns you out? This is where you have to take responsibility for what your life and career looks like. There are plenty of jobs out there where this isn't the case. Okay. So 5 priorities a quarter, says Melanie. We can talk more about that in just a second. So the collaborative no. Obviously, the biggest objection that I get to this. Oh, by the way, hang on. Before I proceed, real quick, this technique, does it look familiar to you? Setting a goal, breaking it down into pieces, delegating items, estimating how long it's going to take. What does this look like to you? Product leaders in the audience. I know you do this in Jira. Yes, hello. So don't tell me you don't know. Don't tell me that you can't do it. You do it literally every day for your job. You excel at this, right? Again, one of the things that kind of makes this a little more complicated when there's soul in your work, which there is for everybody that I work with. I don't work with people who are just box checkers, right? That's just not my vibe. When there's soul in your work, this is important. This is like your emotions are wrapped up into it. The stakes are really high. This is an expression of who you are. Suddenly it's a little harder to hold yourself apart from it and just treat it like logistics, right? But for all of the ambiguity and complexity and passion that creates a lot of complexity, let's just lean on the one thing in this process that we can reliably hold as clear and straightforward and facts-based. Cold, hard facts, cold, hard logistics. Let's leverage that because we don't get it very often. We don't get that simplicity very often. All right, so, whoops, where was I? The collaborative no. So inevitably, you're gonna have someone come drop by your desk and be like, oh my God, hey, I really need your help with something. Do you have a second? And most of you, for all the reasons that we talked about that are keeping this mountain really, making this mountain a real slog for you, is that you say yes. Because you're afraid of being lazy, not being seen as a team player, afraid that it's not gonna get done if you don't do it, thinking that you have to look good. All of these reasons that are fear-based rather than based on a plan that you made for you performing at the highest level for both your own career and your organization, right? So counter-strategically, anti-strategically, you say yes. Sure, I'll take some time to do that, even though it's probably 90% of the time, it's something lower priority than what you had meticulously planned ahead of time, right? So what I want you to do instead is very straightforward. It's the collaborative no. And you say, thank you for this. Here are the priorities we agreed to. What should I swap out? Have them work with you on it for a sec. 80% of the time, they will tell you, never mind. And this is the thing, guys, that I don't want to trivialize, and we'll talk about kind of what's present for you at work, what's making this more difficult for you. But 80% of the time that people are sure that they're going to have this terrible fallout as a result of saying this, it's an absolute breeze. It's a huge breakthrough for people. That's why I'm teaching this to you right now. I really encourage you to rip off that Band-Aid and try this, even if you're afraid that it's not going to go well, because it usually does. So back to it. Core lesson here, another thing I want you to remember, you get to decide what you accomplish on what time frame. Do you want $1 million this year? Or, maybe 500K is fine because, you want to be able to rest and enjoy your life, because that's really what the money thing is about anyway, is having time and flexibility and being able to have time to spend it, right? Again, just using a simple analogy there. But you get to decide what you accomplish and on what time frame. Are you going to decide to set a time frame for yourself for all these goals that is going to burn you out and make you incapable of performing later? Or are you going to do it in a way that's sustainable? That's the question. Be ruthless. You're allowed. You put all this effort into deciding what the most important thing is you could be working on. Guard it with your life. This is your career. Be ruthless. Hold that boundary. And ultimately, working smart instead of hard is like the skeleton. It is the root of good strategy. All good strategy gets maximum results for minimum investment. That's what strategy is. We really overcomplicate it, but at its core, everything has to be a 10x investment. Everything you do, if you want to have massive impact on the world, has to be scaled. And the least strategic thing you could possibly do is burn yourself out, because you're not going to get anything done. Overstretching yourself makes you less happy, less healthy, less effective. Stress is the number 6. Since COVID, it's now the number 7 cause of death in the United States. Work-related stress. That's a real stat. And more than that, if that's not a reason enough for you, it's just bad strategy. Again, in a given 2-year period, you're going to get less done if you don't rest than if you do, even if you're spending fewer hours working. It's not the suffering we're measuring. It's not the number of hours we're measuring. It's the impact you're having, right? Good strategy appreciates this. I'm telling you things you already know. You even knew the tool that I just taught. You've done it every day, or you've done it, you've done it this week probably. So why do we choose to do anything differently? Why do we choose something else? Why do we choose unsustainable approaches? This is a real sociological phenomenon that is known in stress science, known as human giver syndrome. Say me if you recognize yourself in this description. You have a belief that you have a moral obligation to give every drop of your time, energy, and whatever mental space in support of others, no matter the cost to you. This is a phenomenon that we see in so many people. It is more prevalent in women and people of color, people who have to sustain microaggressions all day, who have to explain racism, who are socially conditioned to, are proactively shamed to act in their own self-interest. Human giver syndrome is the reason why we are acting in our own self-interest here, acting anti-strategically here. And the result is compassion fatigue. You're checking out emotionally, minimizing suffering that's not the most extreme, like, oh, well, you know, at least I have a roof over my head, right? I shouldn't be feeling bad. Why am I depressed when like there are homeless people, right? Minimize your own suffering, feeling helpless, hopeless, powerless. You're looking at your calendar and being like, I can't say no. I'm stuck here. I can't do anything about it. Learned helplessness. It's part of this. Staying in a bad situation because if I don't do it, no one else will. Where'd you learn that? Most of us learned it in childhood. Callie is a fearless femme where she constantly found herself completely overwhelmed. And because of her incredible competence, actually, she just kept getting stuff piled on her plate. The kinds of products that she runs are amazing. They're like mega art installations, really, really cool stuff, really stuff she's just amazingly talented and passionate about. She just was this cycle of burnout every 6 months, burnout, over and over again. She kept getting stuff piled on her plate. It never occurred to her to say anything other than yes. Why was that? It turns out that she was raised that way. She was really, and she gave me permission to share this story because she thought it would be so helpful to folks. Most of us came from a background where for some reason or another, whether it was, you know, our culture socializing us this way, or in the case of Callie, she was a caregiver to her parents, where if she didn't do it, literally no one else would, and her survival did depend on it. It's just some old programming that needs an upgrade now that the situation has changed, now that you are more powerful, now that you do have more resources, right? We're running this old program as though you aren't in control. And it's not your fault. This is something that happens. This is how our nervous systems and our brains work. And it's something that, again, there is a healing process to come back from, to get back into your place of feeling total agency over your calendar, right? Kind of joy in being so choiceful in how you're designing your life, because guess what? You're in the driver's seat, right? And you are, but it's no small thing to navigate your way back from the thing that you've probably been reenacting over and over again for your whole life. Caring for ourselves is not self-indulgence, it is self-preservation, and that is an act of political warfare. In Fearless Femmes, we really take into consideration the social context and systemic oppression in which we are operating every day, right? This is not just about baggage you're holding on to. This is about a message that we receive from our culture every day that we owe our bodies and our minds and our energy to others. We're fed that every day. It would be weird if we didn't internalize some of it, right? But it's still our responsibility to get the support we need, marshal the resources to manage that. And there's a real politics to that. So as I mentioned, doing it alone, self-sabotage, interrupt, and unclear goals with people just dropping in and feeling entitled to your time and energy all the time. This is the current culture of our work. This is not something that we're on a mission in Fearless Femmes to address this holistically. I work with managers and trained teams on exactly this, how to be more supportive so that they aren't the manager who's holding your feet to the fire. But ultimately, there's also ways in which you need to you're going to exert some control and some agency and take responsibility for some healing on your own. While we make progress on this, it's not just going to happen. And I promised you at the beginning that if you wanted to learn how to get more help, that you would have the opportunity to do that. So here that is, totally opt in if you're interested. Fearless Femmes is on a mission to promote women to leadership roles in tech within 12 months, and then use that influence to change this fucked up work culture that we've been talking about all day. Justine just dropped a link where you can read about literally the steps that are, again, talk about logistics, right? You're at point A now. If you're feeling exhausted, afraid, anxious, burned out, or maybe you're feeling those things a little bit, but then ultimately you're still really focused on your goals, all of that is your point A. There's steps to get you to point B, which is a promotion or other kind of career advancement that we'll lay out for you. I want to hear from you. If this program actually appeals to you, if you want to be doing this, not alone, but in community that is hyper supportive, we are like, the world needs you out here, and we need you, and we want you to be part of this community. So this is currently for women only. Obviously, all the stuff I taught today is not gender related. This is for women and non-binary people at the moment, but stay in touch. I will eventually, men need this support in this community aspect too. I'm just doing one thing at a time. Again, like what I accomplish on what time frame I'm having to triage here. So I'd love to hear from all of you, and please read about this. Please see if this is going to be your step in taking radical responsibility for things that you've got learned helplessness or a sense of powerlessness around right now. You don't have to do it alone. This mountain, this strategy mountain, nobody climbs it alone. Literally nobody. Even the most privileged among us don't, get a lot of help. That's what privilege is, right? And so we got to create our own support system. And that's what we've done in a way that is utterly thriving and really, really rewarding in Fearless Femmes. And we just have a process that everyone traverses in the context of community to make it happen. What it is, again, you'll read more about it. It's one-on-one coaching, group coaching, a course, and a really robust community to hold you as you accomplish these things. And you will get a promotion within 12 months. Often it's 6, but for more senior roles, I give 12 because we want to find the exact right role for you. And those roles are harder to come by. You will also have the real skills to make work for you. The tangible outcomes, really clear. So we got a bunch of people, actually this week was awesome, gangbusters. We got an 80K raise, we got a 20K raise, a 20% raise, we got a 30K raise, and a bunch of people that were transitioning that got job offers just in the last few weeks. Those are the tangible outcomes. So like, yeah, any investment that you make, and this is a mid 4-figure investment, right? So those types of 5-figure numbers should be your return. So if you have a goal around a 5 to 6-figure raise, all of that, then 4 figures should be an obvious investment for you, right? So that's again, for 10X people, that's the kind of math that we're working with. But I also would be remiss not to mention the intangible stuff. Like if you were just getting a raise and a promotion without your creativity back, your energy, manage stress, amazing warm introductions to the community, it would be pretty empty. Again, I don't work with people who are mercenaries. I work with visionaries who really want to do this for meaning, for purpose, for impact. And so again, harder to put a number on your executive presence, confidence, your stress, your relationships, your free time. But I don't know, try. It's worth it. Like for me, this is actually the most important thing, way more important than money. But again, all these things are going to have different value to different people. Think about it. And if this represents a 10X improvement in your life, right? If this is, then an investment really makes sense here. So here's the system that you can read about, all in that link that Justine sent, and you can apply directly to that link. So I've got 2 minutes. What I would love, actually, let's see, go ahead. If there's a question that I haven't answered yet, I want you to go ahead and put it in the chat. If I can't get through it in the next 2 minutes, I will send it out. I'll send out a response. I'll anonymize it for you, and I'll send it out in the response to the group in an email follow-up so that it gets addressed. Who's got questions for me? You've got 2 minutes. That's plenty. Awesome. Thanks, guys. All right, we got a good question from Rosalind. How do we implement these techniques without standing out in a negative way? Let's see. Ultimately, because they're busy all the time, they're getting some things done, but they might not be the most important things. So Rosalind, this is going to be a longer answer, and I want to kind of address each thing. How do you implement these techniques without standing out in a negative way when you're in an organization where other executives continue to be promoted and rewarded for constantly being busy? So again, you've got a work culture that rewards burnout. It glamorizes burnout and the hustle culture, right? This is no small task. But again, there's basically 2 approaches that I'll write out to you guys and send in an email. At the end of the day, you do have to take responsibility to what it means to stand out in a negative way. What if this made you stand out in a positive way? Because again, like, yes, the culture does reward burnout culture, and there might be some optics that you have to manage. But let me tell you this, if you're creating, just absolutely crushing it with your results, your impact, your metrics, your KPIs, if I'm any boss worth my salt, I'm not going to be worried about how much suffering you're clocking, right? But again, there are things that you need to take responsibility for. And then ultimately, like if this is a two-way street, managers do need to be taking responsibility for this too. And if you can't thrive in this organization, then again, this is not something that I say lightly. This is not something that I am writing off as easy, but you need to make a decision about whether or not this is going to actually get you where you need to be in your career, assuming that what you want is impact. Is this place going to facilitate that for you? Or is it going to crush your energy and burn you out so that you can't have that impact? That's the question you have to answer. All right, guys, lots and lots of love. Thank you for taking an hour out of your day, your busy schedule. You will get an email with these links and you can read more about what we do in Fearless Femmes, and hopefully you'll stay on my list to get notifications for future events. I would love to have you. Have a wonderful day and take care of you. Make sure you get some rest. It's been a tough one this year.
Thanks, Becca.
All right, thanks everybody.